talking about how we can best use this time with you. Just because we love the different stuff that you put out there, we love what you're doing, especially with this, man. I also wanted to pay homage to you, man. This is dope. Like, yo,
Awesome.
even the text. I've been texting you, and then I asked you. I said, okay, how can I, build a presence? And you said content, and then I was like, what? And I didn't.
Oh, you're that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me. I was like, what is he talking about? But then I understood what you were saying, bro, and it made a lot of sense, man. So I everything you're doing, bro, is dope. It's different. I don't see anybody else doing it, and I love it, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time and putting yourself out there to even, talk and have this dialogue with us.
And I've been following you since the Ty Lopez debate, man. So
Yeah.
I love Ty. I bought his course, so like he put me on, but his courses they're just empty to me. Like he has the business ideas, the business plans, and the systems and the structures, but I think his best course is honestly just the 67 steps. I don't think he should sell any other courses, if you ask me. But
love it, man.
In general, though, we wanted to kind of use this time the best way, and I think the best way for us to do that is I wanted to ask you. So based off of the information that we've given you, just the background of who we are, where we come from, what kind of questions, because we have our own questions, of course, that we came to the conversation with, but I thought it would be dope to kind of give you the platform to say, if you were in our position, how would you take advantage of this time? What kind of questions would you be asking John Henry, and what kind of things would you be trying to get out of you?
That's a sick question. I love it. Well, I love it, man. I just commend you guys for the drive and the hustle. I'm sure you guys hear that and will continue to, because, just showing up is, man, trust me, like I started the same way with the same, like, yo, I'm just trying to make a pop. I went suited up, went down, and like, you end up attracting like a certain group of other like-minded individuals, blah, blah, blah. And then I went through a period where like it felt the whole network marketing thing. And then, there's courses and like there are pre-designed systems that are set up to, they magnetize and attract people that are naturally, optimistic and want to get stuff done. And so I remember just navigating through all that and trying to find my place. And like, I tried some network marketing and this and that, but I really wanted to carve my own way and like, build some companies of my own, which I appreciate that you guys are, looking to do as well. Okay. So me being in your guys' shoes, so you're doing a lot of the right things, right? So you are doing a lot of things that, in my opinion, are not super efficient and they don't scale. However, I think it's a big mistake to try and start with doing things at scale, like from the jump, like automating and sending a million messages and all this other stuff. Like I actually really like where you guys are approaching starting, because you're doing the shit now that you won't be able to do later. You're going to be successful later. It's just the fact. And like, the one-to-one, just like going deep and doing stuff that just doesn't scale. Like what I'm doing now, like I've been in this room, since early, and I'm taking 30 minutes back to back to back. It's not scalable. It makes no sense. I raised the fund, and that's a lot more scalable application of my time. But I'm just a really big believer in doing stuff that, just kind of seems crazy, like suiting up and going talking to a bunch of people. Because where you guys are at now is you guys are at that age where, to me, it's a lot more about building skill sets than it is anything else. It's even more about building skills than it is making money. Like, look, you're going to get, $3,500 $100 client here and there. You're going to maybe make $500 a pop on this thing, make 1,000. You might lose your 3,500 customer, be like, fuck, be asked out, get another one for $1,000, make some of that revenue. And you'll see some of that ebbing and flowing. And I don't want that. I don't want you guys to think that that's a reflection of like your own ability as business people, as to like hone in on this time as like, yo, let me build core competencies and skills. Right. So like when I was knocking on doors, literally selling dry cleaning, just like how you guys are going out there selling apps, I didn't know it then, but now I know that my ability to sell like cold came from that time. Right. And now my ability to sell has a different application. And I'm willing to bet, guys, that you know, the application of the skills that you're developing now is going to transcend that of, you know, building people websites and stuff like that. This is like this is a great hustle for being in college and like making some cash and testing the waters. But as you grow as business people, as you develop your acumen, as you like get a little bit more of a zoomed out view, you know, any rational person would then say, you know what, this is cool. Let's wind this down because we're spotting a better opportunity over here that has less inherent friction, that has less people doing it, you know, that has, you know, that we're more well equipped to tackle, that's a little bit more scalable. And so as you go on, you'll pick up those efficiencies and you'll tackle bigger and bigger problems. But the cool thing is the same skills, like when I learned selling dry cleaning, I then use that to convince someone to write us a $5 million check. And that was, you know, one of our first anchor investor at Harlem Capital, you know, but like that wouldn't have come unless I laid the groundwork. Right. So I love using this time, if I were you guys, as just like, what are skills that you want to hone and just, you know, fucking hone them and pay way less attention to the cash that you're making. Now, look, I know, you know, guys like Ty and other guys, and like, yeah, we had our little debate, but it's all good. It's all love. People have different schools of thoughts. The reason that school of thought really bothers me personally is because, you know, you're preying on the aspirations of people by showing off Lambos and shit like that. And like, look, man, I keep it simple, man. I keep it simple, right? But like, you know, I own assets. You know what I'm saying? And like, I could, if I wanted to, play up my success way more than what it is. Like, I'm not uber successful, but like, you get to a point where you can play up the lifestyle, right? Like, you can lease the Lambo, you know, you can fake a lot of those things. It's not hard to move to Beverly Hills and, you know, rent a mansion and you split the rent with 5 homies. And so you're paying $1,700 each. And then, you know, you guys are producing content and you can live up the lifestyle and, you know, and then you can use that on social media to get people to be like, yo, they're popping off, but you're just renting it. You're just renting that lifestyle, you know? Exactly. And I knew from the jump that I was going to be okay being scrappier, and building up my, you know, skills. And then later, unlocking my earning potential. And that's what I'll get into next here. But when I really started tapping, and unlocking my ability to earn, my whole situation started changing. So what do I mean?
Yeah, elaborate on it.
So there are skills that you can hone that have what I call elasticity, like a rubber band. Like, there are some skills that have like a capped amount that you can't earn beyond a certain amount, right? Because like the market prescribes that this is the value.
Gotcha.
Then there are skills where the value is really subjective. So as an example, like in my life, you know, speaking for me, where like, you know, I, like yourself, man, you were saying like, yo, you're articulate, this and that. Like, the first thing I did was I built the business, but then after the business, I realized like, yo, I like speaking. I did a lot of it for free. And then I realized like, yo, you can make money doing it. Start, you know, I made $100 for my first talk, and 500, then 1,000, back to 200. And that ebbed and flowed. But one thing that I really liked about the speaking game, as my, you know, earnings have grown from speaking, like now my default rate is, you know, I'll hit the stage, I'll make 15 grand. And that's just a one hour talk. Right. So look, you're not going to get rich off of 15K, but you're going to take care of your overhead with 15K. Right. And guess what? I didn't trade a whole lot of time to make that 15K. Right. Right. And then when I first started speaking, I would go to these towns and then stay a while because I loved, you know, the idea of traveling, and you're the speaker. So you're hot shit. So, you know, you're getting ass and all this other stuff. But then I realized, you know what, let me like, what would happen if I focused on upping my volume and just trying, you know, to get as many as I can. The tricky thing about these talks is like, securing talks is not really in your control. Like, you kind of have to wait for someone to hit you up. And I hate that part of it. And that speaks to the inbound nature, which I'll get to next. But while we're on the skill thing, there are skills, and one of those skills could just be the business that you're growing now. So you'll have to find a vehicle through which you can increase your earning potential, especially if it's a skill that can come not at the direct exchange of a whole lot of time. right? And so like when I cracked, you know, in my case it was speaking, but there are all kinds of other skills. Like the guy I was just speaking to is an ill coder, and you know, like he just makes bread just coding. You know, you guys, you can start with the SEO thing, but I love your question, like, yo, what would you be asking or whatever? Like,
Right.
I want to just impart on you guys that, look, this is your hustle now, but don't place the pressure of all your life goals, everything that you want to get out of business and being a businessman. Don't place all those pressures on this first little seed of a business. You know, I want you guys to just treat this little seed of a business as like, okay, what skills am I going to learn from this go around? Right. And my first go around, I learned how to sell. That was what I got from that business. I then, you know, after I sell in that business, my next business was an incubator. And in that business, it was a not-for-profit. So I didn't even really make much money. But what I did learn is I learned how to brand. That's when I really got into content and this and that. And like, you know, that 3-year period for me was when I really learned and developed my brand chops. And then what's fascinating is my third business, which is Harlem Capital, was really a fusion of the two, where I took the mission that I had at Co-Found Harlem, I took the branding prowess that I had developed and the sales chop,
added all together.
And that's when I cracked the code on like, this is the vehicle that's going to take me far, right? Because I got into investment funds, and that's like, you know, that's kind of big boy business. And like, you know, we went and we had a successful go around, but it was only because of the, you know, the preceding steps before it. So now the reason, like I'm really big on and bullish on like developing earning potential is because, like, you know, as an example, you know, I have immediate family whom, and like, look, even before I got into business, I was working, I was making $14 an hour as a doorman, and it takes you a minute to save up. Right. And like,
I'm working right now. I'm a server at a restaurant. I go to school. I'm doing the business, brother.
It takes a minute. Right. Whereas I think what you already saw is like that taste of like, yo, we got a client, and like you can blow way past your earnings with a client. And you see that sheepish grin that you guys have? That's that, yeah, I'm gonna make some money grin. Right. So like, that's what also, by the way, like got me in the game and got me excited, because I was like, ooh, once I started selling laundry. And by the way, I didn't even own the facility. It was a homie of mine who owned the dry cleaning plant. And he was like, yo, all you got to do is convince someone to give you the their clothes. You bring them to me, you know, I'll charge you, you know, a fraction of the cost that you charge them, and you make the spread. And so like, you know, I was getting people to, you know, give me their suits, and, you know, I was charging them $12. Hugo was charging me $4. I would make $8. It's not a whole lot of money, but like the thing that I liked about it is that if I hustled, you know, like you could make more than, you know, so now when you get into a situation where if you develop your expertise, your knowledge, you can get to a point where, as an example, speaking or what I'm doing right now you're being paid for what you know, right? And you're not having to exchange a whole lot of time. So now, you know, right before COVID, I was getting to the point where, you know, I was doing 4 or 5 talks a month at that rate, and my overhead is nothing but $2K max. So I'm just stashing. I don't have to trade a whole lot of time. Now, just taking a step back, because, you know, if I were in your guys' shoes, I would be like, fuck, all right, I get it. But, you know, no, people are not going to pay you guys $10K at this moment to go and speak at all. Right. So now, here's what I'm really big on, bro. I want you guys to resist the temptation of starting what I call a Me Too business, which is like a business that's kind of super easy to start. I love it in some respect because it's going to start developing your skills. But here's what I want you guys to lean into more. Okay. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but it served me really well. I want you guys to lean more into a project or a business that is more differentiated, and it actually will likely have less earning potential in the short term. Okay. It will have less earning potential in the short term, but what you're doing is, by default, if everyone says, hey, I'm going to start a social media agency because you can make money now, and it's true, it's a service-based business, and that's the enticing part about it. And I'm not encouraging you guys to fold the business. I'm saying, hey, keep it open and make a little bit of cash, but start setting your sights on something that is just like more emotionally resonant, is exciting, feels differentiated. You get fucking fired up about it.
Yeah.
And it might not make money in the short term, but in my experience, the projects that that are more differentiated like that and are more uncommon, those are the projects that builds your expertise in the marketplace. Because just think about it by default, right? Like most people, if they're in a certain bucket, if most people aren't entrepreneurs, but of the people that become entrepreneurs, if most of them go and start this kind of business, then naturally their perspective doesn't have as high of a value because it's common knowledge.
Yeah.
It's fucking common. You buy it at H&M.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
And
know,
that's kind of how we feel, just kind of getting caught up in doing the marketing. Like we have other ideas and different things, but like you said, I feel like we're building a skill set right now of learning how to market, not just for our clients, but we could take the skill set and apply it to our next business, and then
exactly.
skyrocket,
And that is a really advanced way to think about it. You're noticing within yourself, right? And I want you to keep developing that awareness. You're noticing, like, all right, this is like, I don't know if this is going to take me all the way. I like the things that we're learning. We have the ability to make some quick cash, but you're already starting to get some ideas bubbling about some things that I feel a little bit more differentiated, feel a little bit more accustomed to you. And I don't know, like you guys probably, jam on these ideas all day, but when you finally come across one that you feel like, you know what, let's start building this out a little bit. This is when you go a different path on the fork and this is, in my opinion, when your value really starts to build. And you're going to have to resist the temptation of the fact that your peers that will be in the money now businesses, they'll be making more cash than you. When I was building Co-Found Harlem, my homies that were running their SEM businesses and SEO businesses, they were making more money than me in the short term. I went through a lot of days when I had no food in the fridge and I was really going through it. Yeah. But the project that I was working on was way fucking cooler. Yeah. It was way cooler. It got people to be like, whoa, this is ill. Like, and then I got earned media because it was like, yo, meet the 22-year-old kid growing an incubator in Harlem. This shit is ridiculous. like I want you guys to work on some shit that just feels ridiculous. Like, yo, like this is nuts. Yeah. Right. And it's funny because now I realize that the people that opted in for the thing that made money now are fucking commodities. A dime a dozen. They can be hired. They have a fixed rate.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas my perspective, because I honed it in a lane all by my own, now I'm getting really custom opportunities that match the custom knowledge that I have.
Exactly.
Now I get invited by brands. They say, yo, we really want to work on this project. You're the only you're the only voice that we want to represent the project. You know what I'm saying? And so then you unlock other earning potentials and avenues and possibilities. So that is what I would have, loved to have told myself that at your guys' age. But the thing that makes me rest easy is that I can tell you're already starting to uncover a lot of these things kind of on your own. I can tell by your guys' thought process and so forth. So, to recap, like, I am not shitting on like the service business. I'm not shitting on the SEM, SEO thing. I'm just saying use that for what it is, right? Yeah. Use that for, this is something that's going to help me hone my skills, get some money now, meet some good people, right? Blah, 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 whatever, help you get out of the serving job faster, right? Things like that, build chops in digital marketing and like whatever. But when you find that project that you feel is worth kind of going more all into, make that transition and start building that really, really custom perspective. Cause that's what different than like a lot of cats who just produce content on social. Like it's not, they don't get it. It's not about the fact that, like I might be producing as much video as someone else, but like the reason, like as an example, Cadillac the whips that, they let me drive. Like, I have a contract where they pay me to drive their whip, which is fucking nuts, right?
You put up this morning, he was on your story watching it.
Yeah. So, and I spaz out at that, not because of the dollar figure, but more so just because like that deal is so custom that they can't fit me into their standard influencer box where they say, hey, look, with a normal influencer, they would say, hey, look, we'll let you, we'll loan you this car for 30 days. You do a post and we pay you based on your follower account. I was like, fuck that. I don't value myself based on the follower account. And so the more you guys optimize in your career, not necessarily for money in this early stage, the more you optimize for narrative, like a super distinct narrative, a footprint that I want you guys to have a footprint and a career that fucking no one else has, where it's like, yo, he went from, serving in sports and this, and then he's in this. And like, if you guys look at my own footprint, like I love mixing it up like that. Yeah. From doorman to laundry to incubator to VC fund, I have a TV show, and it's just like, you never fucking know. Right. And like that customness is like a custom garment, people will pay top dollar for that. So I love what you guys are doing, man.
Can I ask you one last question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I love everything that you said. My only last question would be, do you have any advice on how we would start to look for that unique narrative, that unique footprint, that unique lane? How can we start to get there? What are different steps that we can take to make sure that, we're not wasting our time trying these different things, thinking of, I don't want to waste my time, brother, because time is so valuable, man. So that's my main thing, is how can we use our time wisely? How can we use the most of it in the most effective way?
I love it, man. I love it. But we got time, life is short, but it's the longest thing we do, right? Like, so like, it's a good question though. And I empathize with that. Like, yo, I want to make sure I'm locking in on the right thing. I don't want to fuck up on the wrong thing, but first start with, there's a dichotomy where relieve yourself of the pressure to be like, yo, I'm looking for that thing, relieve yourself of the pressure, go about life, what I do want you guys to do is hone your observation. Like, that's something that I intentionally work on. Like, when I'm walking down the block, let's say, if I see a construction sign, I don't just see a construction site. I'll be like, yo, who's that? Like, who's on, like, the permit will say, this is the builder. I'll look them up, like, hone that observation, going about life, running this current business. And I also really love leaning into, some passions that you guys might have, because the things that get you guys the most energized is going to be the things that, you guys are going to go the distance on. So look, these are answers that, I guess sound cliche on paper, but, I hope I'm transmitting it in a way that lets you guys know that, like, what I'm saying?
I like the way you said optimize for that unique narrative, to where, like you said, that you don't value, that brands are going to value you separately, as opposed to, like you said, the other people who are commodities doing the same shit, so that's
exactly
that's definitely where we're going to step out, because even here in Denver, there's not a lot of people our age who can say they're doing that. Everybody's out at the bars, the clubs, partying. Meanwhile, we're still here, like, we're grinding. Like he said, he's working 8-hour shifts. I'm working. We're all just grinding. And then we just see people on their snaps and their Instagram. It's just like, we don't care about that shit. We just want something. And right now we know that. And I think that's even more what's motivating us now to figure out, like, getting on calls with you and and talk to as many people as we can, to just pick their brains and learn as much as we can right now. So
I love it, man. And then also, to your question about, like, how do you know if it's the right thing? I like trying stuff, man. I've always been a really big fan of that. I've never been afraid to just dabble a little bit. And, for instance, like, when I started investing, like, later on in my career, you would hear people say, well, small business, these are the pros and cons, and real estate and this and that. But I was like, I want to know for my fucking own, like, I want to learn on my own.
And that's a big thing for me, is how do you educate yourself? What's the best way to educate yourself with credible resources? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the best way? The internet, books. What was you reading when you started doing the incubate? Like, how did you even get onto that? How did you even get turned into that type of stuff?
Right. So all of the above on info, right? Like, we know what it is. Like if you wanted to learn, let's say angel investing as an example, you would Google it, you would find the most popular books, you will buy them, you'll read them. It's still only going to get you so far, right? Like you'll understand it intellectually. You might drop the definitions down, but I have always been like, I dropped out of college my first semester because I've always just been the type that like, I just like learn. I like doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So use an angel example, and then I got to run. Use an angel example as an example, angel investing. Like I read all the books and shit like that, but I was like, I still don't know what it's like. So I rounded up a few homies and I was like, yo, if we each put together 3K and there were 5 of us, 15K, that's enough to be able to invest in a business. So like, can we find a business to invest in with our own cash? Right. And I'll tell you what, that first investment that we made, that business actually went out of business and I lost my $3,000. But it's not about the money. It's about the person you become when you invested.
Yeah.
So for you, so you see what I'm saying? It's less going to be about, yo, I want this thing to work. It's more about, yo, who do I become when I give this a shot? That's when you hone intuition. That's when you hone judgment. That's when you hone experience. Like
that's when you decide who you are. That's when you decide who you're gonna be.
That's when you decide who you're gonna be. So with that, I'll leave it, fellas. But yo, this is super real. I'm fucking pumped up right now. You guys got me energized, man.
I'm trying to get with you, man. So if you ever in Denver, if I'm in one of the cities you in, we're gonna get together, man. Remember my name.
I love that.
Uber, man. I'm gonna come see you,
man. Thank you.
Yo, I love that. Yo, be well, fellas. Hey, that email that I sent my scheduling link on, that's my actual email. So hit me anytime. Inbox open to you.
My man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Have a good one.
Appreciate it, man. Be safe.
Be well, fellas. Have a nice